So did you notice that in this story, God gets Peter's attention with a huge cloud? I think that would be so incredible to have God stop me in my tracks with a huge cloud and say, hey, pay attention. I'm trying to communicate something very important to you. Well, as many of you know, a group of us from Good Shepherd went on a mission trip to Jamaica a few weeks back. And we went along with some members of Christ the King, where my husband is a pastor, which was pretty cool. My husband and I got to go on a mission trip together. It was amazing. And there were so many plans to get the trip together and details and getting everybody organized. And before I knew it, all of a sudden, I was in Jamaica. And it was our first night. And I was leading devotions for the whole group. And I didn't realize that we were being joined by a group from Hope Lutheran right over in Fargo and another church from Virginia, Minnesota. And it was a total of 43 people. And I looked out at these people on our first night as I was going to prepare them for what we were going to do the next day. And it hit me. I actually have to do the things that I've been preparing to do for so many months. Now, maybe this would have occurred to more of you, but sometimes I can get just wrapped up in details, and then I don't pay attention until the thing is actually happening, and then I actually have to do the thing I've been preparing for. It was an amazing experience. The next morning, our group got divided into 3 groups, and we went to serve at different places, 3 different places. The place where I spent most of my week was an orphanage called West Haven, and it's for children and young adults with disabilities. And when you go to this orphanage, there's 80 children and young adults, and there's some house mothers who take care of them. And our job for the week is to just be the extra hands and feet to help the house mothers. They need work, they need help with so many things: feeding the children, changing the children, bathing the children, playing with the children. There's fix-it jobs, maintenance jobs, there's laundry to do, cleaning to do. There's so much to do, and our job was just to spread out and say, "Hi, I'm Mary, how can I help you?" And then be put to work. So I have a few pictures that I want to show you of West Haven, just so you can see what the place looks like. There's a few of our participants, Phyllis and Joy, with a man named Frankie, and he was like, "Is it party time? Party time?" And we'd say, wait, not yet, Frankie. Wait. Later on, we'll have party time, because he always wanted to party. And then in the afternoon, we would hang out and paint nails and, just talk to the kids there. So that's what they're doing in that picture. And then we would dance and sing. So there I was, dancing and singing with a few people. And we tried to stay in the shade because it was very hot sun. And there's me and Christopher, and that man can dance. In church at Faith Chapel, he was just up with his hands in the air. He was dancing, and he has moves. And then there's Phyllis with one of the smaller children at the orphanage. And then this is a group of us feeding the children out on the front porch of one of the cottages. And then that's our whole group that went in together. Now, when we got to Jamaica and we got to our mission site, all of a sudden you just had to jump right in. So I went in on the first morning and I said, "What can I do to help?" And I was given a bottle, and I was told to feed one of the very small children named Ashanti. And her limbs are very curled up and kind of tangled, and she can't speak, but she has these very knowing eyes. And so I held her and I fed her with a bottle. Then I was given another bottle to feed another child. Then I was given a bowl of porridge to feed a bigger child. And then after that, I was handed a child who had just been bathed, and I was told to go and clothe this child. And just all day, whatever the house moms need help with, just make myself available. And there was no time to just sit on the sidelines and think, what should I do? Because we're just thrown right in to help and to serve. And I wonder, in that moment that I had the night before we started to serve, that moment of, whoa, I actually have to go and do the thing I've been preparing to go and do. I wonder if Jesus had that type of experience when he was up on the mountain. He went up there to pray with his disciples, and while he was praying, this whole, shiny white thing, and the Moses and Elijah show up. And through that experience, Moses and Elijah talked to him about how he had to go to Jerusalem and die on the cross and complete his mission. I wonder if Jesus had a moment where he said, whoa, I actually have to go and do the thing that I have been preparing to do my whole life. We call this experience, this mountaintop experience that Jesus had, the Transfiguration. But to me, it sounds a lot like Confirmation Day. Maybe you will see the parallels as well. Jesus, up on the mountain, was confirmed in his mission to go out and live this mission God had given him. He also got to hear those words he heard in his baptism, "This is my son, my chosen," with the added words, "Listen to him." And Confirmation Day is really just affirming what we first heard in baptism. So I'll point out some more parallels that I think we should really call this experience not the Transfiguration, but Jesus' Confirmation Day. First, the white robe. Jesus' clothes turned white. Every year in confirmation, we have our students put these white gowns on. But Jesus didn't even need to get a gown issued to him because his clothes just turned white. Also, on Confirmation Day, the students are affirming their faith, and they're remembering what it means that they have been welcomed into God's family. They're reminded who they are and whose they are, and they make a promise to go out and live this faith that they have been prepared for their whole lives. And then another similarity is on Confirmation Day, students invite their families and their sponsors, people who have been important to them, who have shaped their faith, to come and surround them. And Jesus had that too. He had 3 close disciples there witnessing this. He had 2 maybe mentors or sponsors, Moses and Elijah, there, putting their hands on him, giving him their blessing as well. And you might wonder, why was it Moses and Elijah? Out of all the people in the Bible, why did those 2 ancient dead heroes of faith show up? Well, I think it's because those 2 people represented the law and the prophets. We heard about Moses in the first lesson. He was the one who received the law from God up on the mountain, and he brought it back down to the Israelites. The law was used to have people learn how they should treat one another and how they could live in a way that was pure and righteous before God. And then Elijah is like one of the best known prophets. And the prophet's job was always to remind people who they belong to. You are God's people. This is how God's people act. The prophets let people know if they're not on the right track. The prophets have always been sent to guide God's people. So you had Moses representing the law and Elijah representing the prophets, saying, now the thing that we have to guide us is God's own Son. How cool is that? Not just the law and the prophets anymore, but God's own Son here to lead us and guide us. So I hope that when we have our Confirmation Day, many months from now for our next confirmation students, that it will be a day where they feel surrounded, where they feel equipped, where they feel supported by all these people who love them and the things that they've learned along the way. I hope that they will experience this to be, wow, I am God's child. This is who I am. This is what I believe. And with all these people around me, I'm going to go out and live this faith that I have been learning about. I am going to live knowing that God is with me wherever life takes me. I hope that maybe we can even give our students a moment that I experienced in Jamaica, this terrifying and exhilarating moment of, I actually have to do this thing that I've been preparing to do. Maybe our students will say, I actually have to live my faith in a way that I've been preparing to do up to this point. I hope that we all have those experiences, not just on Confirmation Day, but throughout our lives. It can often be easier to just sit on the sidelines and observe and watch. But when I was in Jamaica, I didn't have that choice to just, no, I'm just going to sit and observe for a while. You guys go out and help others. I'm just going to sit from afar. I couldn't do that. I just had to jump in and learn about myself and learn about the gifts God had given me as I was actually fumbling around and trying to help and try to use these gifts. I got to learn about other people. I got to learn how whenever I do put myself out there, God does show up. And I could see that God was working through the people in Jamaica, and I hoped that God was working through me, and I was living this mission, and it was exhilarating and terrifying all at the same time. Every time I go on a mission trip, it feels like Confirmation Day for me, all over again, because I'm learning more about who I am and whose I am. And when I'm serving people who are very far away, that I've never met before, it reminds me I need this attitude of service every day when I come home. It helps me to focus on how can I serve my family at home? How can I serve the people at church, other people that I work with and see every day? It focuses my senses on how God is still calling me, how God is still saying, get up and do the thing that you have been prepared to do. But sometimes I also act like Peter, the disciple who always gets things wrong. Peter's first reaction was something like this. Hey, Jesus, this is really cool. Let's just stay up on this mountain and make these dwellings or these shrines. Let's make some scrapbooks just to commemorate this experience, to freeze it in time. And that wasn't the intention of the experience. And God had to get Peter's attention with this huge enveloping cloud and say, this is my son, listen to him. And what Jesus told him then, once Peter's attention was finally gotten, was no, you can't stay up on the mountaintop. You can't bottle up this experience. You've got to take this mountaintop confirmation and go back into your life. And you've got to go and live the mission that God has given you. There's people to heal. There are people who need to know about God's love. And Jesus led them back down the mountain, knowing that the mission was going to lead to his death. The point of all of these confirmation experiences, whether you're up on a mountaintop or whether you're just in your everyday life, is to be reminded that you are God's child and God has work for you to do, and God's going to be there with you with whatever you face. Whether it's the big things that we contemplated in Jamaica, like racism and poverty and inequality, or the things that you experience on a daily basis, like exhaustion, or broken relationships, or failing health, or the threat of a blizzard. Knowing that God is with you for all of those things. We are God's sons and daughters, and we have been given a mission. In a few moments after our song, we are going to have new members be received, and they are going to be welcomed into this mission. And I really hope a big cloud breaks through the ceiling and surrounds them. I don't know if it will or not, but either way, God has a mission for these new folks. And at 11:15, there's going to be 2 children baptized. And I hope that them and their families, that they can experience God's presence, that God has claimed them and God's got work for them to do too. So I pray that all of us, no matter where we are at, can have that moment of, whoa, I actually have to go and do the things that God has prepared me to go and do, and know that we are not doing it alone. Amen.